All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very different style of stream today. Today, I am going to be talking for a lot of this about a card game that very, very few people are familiar with. A card game near and dear to my heart. That is the Game of Thrones card game. We're going to be specifically looking at the Game of Thrones CCG. To give a bit of a background, talk about this. Game of Thrones CCG started in 2002. This game is quite old. Like, we're talking about a game that has been on and off for almost 2 decades. So, uh, it was originally a CCG uh, put out by Fantasy Flight Games, uh, designed by Eric Lang. It predated the show by a decade. It predated book 4. Like, the release of book 4, Feast for Crows, is 2003. This predates that. So, like, this is not anyway a show tie-in. The CCG is effectively from the years 2002 to 2007. So we're talking about a book tie-in card game. But yeah, Eric Lang was the lead designer. If you're familiar with board games, card games, especially a little bit more with Fantasy Flight games, Eric Lang is a name you may recognize. Um, it has a really interesting back and forth to it on how it plays. It also has it's a game for 2+ players. Right now we're sitting on a board for a joust. Joust is a 1v1 game in this. But you can also play it melee as a I think up to 6 player game, but 4 is usually what you do in a melee. And those are both tournament supported formats, uh, were in the game. The Game of Thrones CCG started in 2002, went to 2007. In 2007, it stopped being a CCG, coming in booster packs, and became the first LCG out of Fantasy Flight Games. A LCG was a game that was distributed in set packs that were known. So rather than buying a booster pack that contained 11 cards, you'd buy a chapter pack. The chapter pack would contain a play set of 20 new cards. And that would be how you got new cards. You didn't buy a pack, you just bought all the cards. That was denoted in the game by the swap to white border. Uh, and we'll be talking about what the heck is this? What's this card? What are any of these? What do these symbols mean? Anyway, the Game of Thrones LCG lasted through, oh boy, uh, that went through like 2011, 2012, a little longer than that. It then was rebooted as the Game of Thrones LCG 2.0. Same basic game with some minor tweaks to numbers, and a fresh start on the card pool. That went on through mid 2019. The game has not had an official card release since mid 2019. They Fantasy Flight has not said that the game is dead, but they have killed organized play. They have said that there's not like ongoing development. There's nothing going on with it, but there has not been a release in about 2 years now. Obviously, if even if there were, the last couple of years have not been conducive to in-play card games. Anyway, that's all the prelude. You're probably asking, okay, what the hell's the card game, right? Well, let's go ahead and throw these cards off the top of my deck here so I can kind of talk about them. So the Game of Thrones card game is made up of a number of different card types. Let's go ahead and grab one of each. here. And then we can go ahead and talk about them. And then once we have those, we can kind of talk about how the game is played. I will continuously pull up camera mode. All right, so if I want... Here's a character. There's an event. This is all going to be events. Actually, hold on. There's a location. And that's probably enough. There's attachment too, but... yeah, we can use that as an attachment. Alright, so... Talking about the game itself. So... We've got a number of different card types here. We don't need you, we need you. Anything in this one that might be... Actually, remember. Oh no, that's an attachment right there. Okay. Frozen Salt. Cool. So, there are 6 main card types. I guess 5 with agendas not really being a main card type. Within the Game of Thrones CCG. The first big one, is plot cards. Wow, these are JPEG. You get to enjoy JPEG. Plot cards are a separate deck of 7 cards that you start the game with. You build you obviously are the ones building your deck. You choose which plot cards are in them. Your deck is a 60 card main deck and a 7 card plot deck. If we go ahead and what's up? A plot deck are these cards that are going to kind of determine what your turn is going to look like. They have a gold value in the upper left. That's how much money you'll have on the turn. They have an initiative value in the upper left. That's the who's going to have the choice of going first. And they have a claim value, which we'll get to later. They also will have text in the bottom that will be, the reason you're usually playing it. Conventions of War, for instance, has a high relative gold value and only allows 2 challenges a round, meaning it slows down the game for a turn 1. Whereas Winter Storm here says at the beginning of challenges, everybody goes down to 3 characters. Choose up 3 characters and discard the rest from play. So it's a sort of board wipe. Well, what are you using this gold on? Generally, you're using it on characters. Characters here have a gold cost in the upper left. They have that's how much it will cost to play the card from your hand. In the upper right, they have an affiliation. Elara, Sand here is Martell. They might have that little flag. We'll talk about it again later. They have a strength value, the 3 in the flag. And then they'll have up to 3 icons. They can have 0 or... Here's some other icons. So, I have to have a Tricon character in here, right? Or are those the Viper? Viper, where are you? Viper. Viper. No. I know you're in here, Viper. Fine. Displaced Dornishman. Alright. So, you have 3 icons. Military in red, intrigue in green, power in blue. These are the challenges it can participate in. And then it has its own card text. This, for instance, has a effect where it can make your opponent fulfill claim on a challenge. We don't know what any of that means yet, but we'll get to that part. So yeah, characters are the main thing you're spending your gold on. You go ahead and spend gold on your turn to play them out. You also spend gold on locations. Locations, a lot of the times, are your economic cards. Lord Doran's Chambers here, which is also JPEG. These are going to be a lot of JPEG'd up to hell. It turns out the only resources that exist for the Game of Thrones CCG like is a singular wiki that only has 400 by 200 images because every other site, like Sumain or any of the main sites that were used way back in the day, are just dead or replaced by like LCG stuff. If we get to relevant text, I'll definitely read it. Right now, the text is not relevant because we only care about the anatomy of a card at the moment. So, but like here, Lord Dorian's Chambers has costs 1 and provides 1 gold along with a scroll. Well, again, explain later. So you can spend a gold to get a gold on each of your next turns. There are other cards that provide economic value, like Summer Sea here is effectively a dark ritual. Cost 0. You can discard it from play to reduce the next Targaryen or Martell character you play by 2. It's just dark rit. Everybody gets dark rit in this game. Or you can have locations that have an effect, like on the board. The Broken Arm here can kneel. Kneeling is tap, by the way, because we are, knights, lords. Also, you can't use the word tap because, Wizard of the Coast. You kneel a card by turning it sideways. It loses all of its icons. The character without icons can't fight, so this is a sort of icy manipulator, sort of thing. Other bits. We also have events. Events are, your instance. Wow, these are JPEG. I'm sorry about the JPEG to hell on all these, but like, there are no good resources. Other than God, a webcam on my own cards. That might have been a better resource than this now that I'm thinking about it, but I just wanted to do this today. But yeah, these are events. You play them from your hand, fulfill whatever cost they have, and do their effect. Watching the Heavens, kneel 3 influence or a book character to reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and put them in hand. We don't, again, we don't know what influence, we don't know what a book character is, but we do know what drawing 3 cards is. This gives a character -3 strength. If it hits 0, it's discarded from play. Cool, So those are your instant sorceries. That's what events are. Attachments are your creature enchants or such. Frozen Solid here can attach to an attachment or location a blanket's text box. Which, cool. It does exactly what you think. It blanks the text box. But because this is Game of Thrones, we have things like named swords. For all sorts of different characters. We have different, there's a number of attachments. An attachment might be something like support from Bannerman, or it might just be Widow's Wail or Ice. Ice being the very large broadsword of the Stark family. Widow's Wail being one of the 2 that it's made into. But yeah. And then agendas. Some of the attachments are just wolves. The dire wolves actually are all attachments, the Stark ones. So yeah, anyway, this is all cool and good, but it's all also nonsense. So what I want to do is kind of show you, I say quick, but I want to go through kind of an example turn from one player's side, just to show you what the flow of the game looks like, alright? So, let's go ahead and shuffle up. And we'll treat this as the start of the game here. So, we're just going to go start of the game, down, and go from there. If there are any questions, by the way, throw them out. I realize I'm just talking a lot, and I'm going to be doing that as we go along. This is very ad-libbed. I did not script any of this because I didn't plan this until about noon today. So, do I have a hand? I don't think I have a hand. Alright, so, this hand sucks. This hand's very awful. Alright, so, the way Game of Thrones works is a card game. I'm just going to go from the start. Both players are going to draw 7 cards and decide if they are going to keep their hand. In Game of Thrones, you get 1 free mulligan, which is where you throw your 7 back and draw a new 7. If you choose to keep your hand, you then are allowed to immediately play 5 gold worth of cards. How do you win? Get to 15 power. We'll explain how we get to 15 power. Would we... here. Wow, this board's even JPEG'd. But you're trying to claim power for your house. I'm gonna grab a house card. And we're gonna make it bigger. Oh no. Okay. So at the start of the game, each player draws 7, gets a free mulligan, and then gets to immediately play 5 gold worth of cards. In this hand, that would be this and this, leaving 1. That's a very poor start, so I would very quickly mulligan the hand. Because when you play, wow, that card has some. When you play your cards for 5 gold that you get for free at the start of the game, those cards you then redraw up to 7. So here I have a 2, a 1, a 2, and a 2. And even though I could, instead of playing this 2 and these 2, I could go ahead and play Princess Loyalist or Nomadic Scholar here. 3 cards. This would let me draw 3 up to 7, whereas I could draw 4 going this way. It might be worse because Sellsword Company here has an effect that lets it be played for free, but that's fine. So that's the first part of the game is set up. You actually are starting the game in the middle of the fight. You don't start from 0. You start from a board. This is where I get to start explaining little keywords. Limited is a keyword on locations mostly. Limited means 1 card with the limited keyword per turn. These tend to be resource cards. Dornish Fiefdoms here is 1, and then Kneels to make your next card -1. If you could just chain them out, you'd be able to get your economy going very quickly. So it's a restriction on how many of those you can play. So, we get our card flippy noises. So we play our 4 cards here, and we are starting the game in the middle of the game. So we have locations, characters, and we draw back up to 7. Let me put them here. This is the middle of the board. We're not going to have an opponent here. I'm just going to be showing off, again, phases and such of the game. So, but yeah, that part is one of my favorite bits, is that you start, not only do you start in the middle of the game, you have a reason to want to, like, have your curve be low so that your opening hand can just drop, like, 6 or 7 cards and then draw back up and have a card advantage at the beginning. Over here, we see that there's a list of phases on our house card. Ignore number 7, that does not exist in the CCG. So, step 1 is the plot phase. In the plot phase, each player is going to look at their plot deck and choose one of their plots to play for that turn. Now, as I mentioned, the plot cards kind of control how much money you get for your turn, and also have other effects that might change the board up. Winter Storm, as I showed earlier, brings both players down to 3 characters. Outfox cancels your opponent's plot. On Raven's Wings here, can search a 3-cost character and put it directly into play, but you get almost no gold for your turn if you do so. So you have a ton of different options. Can you use the same plot multiple times, or is it a 7-turn game? Once you run out of plots, so turn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, when you play plot 7, flip these down, they become your new plot deck. The game can go on indefinitely. The way to win in Game of Thrones is to hit 15 power. Other than one other bit I'm going to talk about, which, funnily enough, is the tiny bird in the corner of this card, there is no other win con. You can't mill out. If you mill out, the game just keeps going. You don't lose. So, you know, if you mill out, the bad stuff is, well, shit, I can't draw anymore. Um, yeah. Anyway, the design of the deck I'm playing here wants to start its turn one with Conventions of War here. Conventions of War has a ton of gold. 3 to 4 is kind of a normal gold, 6 is a lot. And it also has a challenges effect, which we'll talk about when we get to the challenge phase. Yeah, this is Tabletop Sim. Thrones has its own, but it's only for LCG too. I haven't used it yet, so. But yeah, I felt I had to talk about Thrones today. So, you play your plot card, your opponent plays their plot card, and what happens is you compare the initiative value, which is in the diamond. Whoever has the highest initiative value gets to choose first player. You might think going first is good, right? Maybe not, depending on your deck. The round in this game is effectively both players are taking a simultaneous turn. So, like with our sequencing, both players are in plot, then both players go to draw, then both players go to marshal, then both players go to challenges. It's a shared turn. So going first means that you're going to be marshaling, playing cards, and challenging, going to combat. Going first. For instance, say you have a number of cards in your deck that are all about kneeling characters. You know, you want to kneel characters to try to give yourself an advantage in combat. Well, if you go first, cool, I have this one character in play right now. Would you like to kneel it? Great. Now I'll slam 1, 2, 3. You know, like, now I'll just slam a bunch of characters in play. So you might have a reason to go second in that. There are a number of other reasons too, but that's the main one. So what we'll do here. So we'll treat it as though our opponent went ahead and revealed whose name may not be spoken. When revealed, choose name attachment or location. Each player discards one of the named card type. It has the others trait. Plots can have these traits on them. Let me find. Like Kingdom here. If there are one or fewer Kingdom cards in your used pile, do the thing. Which means you like plots with Kingdom are generally very powerful, but if you play too many of them, these become very useless. Plots with the others are about from north of the wall. I will just be talking about Game of Thrones as a concept a lot here, like the books, the show, etc. So expect that. There's a couple other types on, but not in the ones that you have here. Gotta be on some others. Intrigue, power, and military each have a keyword for them. Anyway, but yeah, so reveal these two. So we are going first. So then we move to draw phase. Important things about draw. In Game of Thrones, you draw 2 cards a turn on draw. So we start our turn, we draw 2. Then they draw 2 simultaneously. The Game of Thrones card game also has a draw cap. You cannot draw more than 3 cards in a turn, in a round, by card effects. So you get your 2 base, and then you can have 3 bonus cards. Dornish Alchemist here, kneels to draw. But any more than 3, you're cut off. Goodbye. Nope, sorry, you've hit your limit. This was established fairly early in the CCG due to some pretty rude decks that would draw way too many cards in a turn and then just be able to slam them all. They just decided, you know what? 3. 3 is your limit. We're going to design around 3 as the limit, and so on. It actually makes for some really interesting designs, as we'll see in cards later. But those are the 2 main things about draw. So you have your draw phase, both players draw 2. All right, cool. Next up is marshaling. In turn order, starting with whoever was chosen by highest initial player, you get all your gold. So all your gold is whatever you have on your plot, 6, and whatever is generated by your cards in front of you. 0 off these, but we have ways to reduce the cost of cards we control. So here's some gold tokens. All right, so we have 6 gold, and we have a number of ways to reduce the cost of cards in our hand. So we want to play, again, our Summer Sea. This is a Dark Ritual, -2 off the cost of a card. The Iron Throne here, we can kneel to put an event on the top of our discard, from our discard pile on top of the deck. After any card goes to any player's dead pile. Ooh. It's recursion. But I think the thing I want to do here, we're going to spend a gold to play our fiefdom, which lets us, we can only play 1 fiefdom a turn. And that lets us reduce a card by 1. I'm going to go ahead and spend the sea. We'll play this Alchemist for 2. Any phase, we can kneel it to draw. Okay. This has initiative up equal to the number of characters you control, Martell characters. Let's go ahead and Dark Writ that out. And then we want to go 1 to Prince's Loyalist and Sir Waymar. So that spends all of our gold. So to count that up again, we -2, -2. So -2, -2. This is 0. This is 0. Reduce by 1. Reduce by 1. Play that for 1. And then play this for 4. Sir Waymar Royce here has some weird text. Cannot be killed. That's great. You are considered to have an additional doomed card in your dead pile. I mentioned that the only way that you can lose is by your opponent getting 15 power. If you have 5 doomed cards in your dead pile, doomed cards being a mechanic from Winter Edition with this little bird in the bottom left, you lose the game on the spot. You're dead. Get out of here. Like, stop it. It's very funny. So these cards are incredibly powerful compared to, a card normally of that cost. Yeah, you can lose by hitting 5 birds. All right, so our opponent, we play all our cards out that we want. Our opponent plays out all their cards that we want, and then we get into challenges. And challenges is the meat and potatoes of the game. So the way challenges works is that every turn you can make 1 challenge for each of the little icons. You can make a military challenge. You can make an intrigue challenge. You can make a power challenge. You can attack with any number of characters that have the same icon. So if we wanted to do military, we could just do everybody. That'd be a really bad idea, but we could do it. Maybe if they had something we super needed. Anyway, you can, when you attack on an icon, you kneel for it. When you defend on an icon, you kneel on it. So, these two. You can do them in any order. So, like, you don't have to go down the line. You don't have to go military, then intrigue, then power. You can do power first, and then see what they do. And then intrigue second, and then, like, military third. But you might ask yourself, the hell, what's the difference, right? What's the difference between red, green, and blue? So 2 different things happen on a challenge. Number 1, if you win a challenge unblocked, you get a power. Just cool. If your opponent, you attack on power, and your opponent cannot block, you get a power. Great, cool, you did it. But each different challenge type has its own claim that has to be paid when you win a challenge as the attacker. The claim value is this number one in our conventions of war. Different plots can have different claim values. This has two. Okay, well, what are we paying two of? This was something from memory. Eric Lang described as wanting to be, I think the word was profane. Thank you for the host now, by the way. Um, like he wanted the costs of battle to be high, to be felt, to feel real. When you win a military challenge, your opponent, if as an attacker, you only get these if you win as an attacker, your opponent has to kill characters they control equal to your claim value. It's usually one, but it can be more. So, you attack out. If they can't win the challenge, they have to kill a character they control. On Intrigue, if you win an Intrigue challenge, your opponent has to discard cards at random equal to your claim value. Again, usually one. And on a power challenge, you steal power from the opposing house card equal to the claim. So that is kind of where the bread and butter of the game comes. Is from, figuring out... I'm just going to kind of add some cards over to our opponent's board, all right? It's trying to figure out the puzzle of how on earth do I attack and, get profitable attacks, right? How do I... Or what is the most important for me to get on the board? Let's use this for an example. We'll consider this to be our opponent's board here. So, we can see they only have 4 in military, which means that it's very unlikely they're going to be able to win on a military challenge as long as we keep up enough to defend it. Attackers win ties, by the way. So if I were to attack with Prince's Loyalist and Area Hotel were to defend, 4-4, attacker wins. So claim still must be satisfied. This is a game where pressing the advantage, pressing the attack is a, feature, not a bug. So you have to, the main part of the game is evaluating your opponent's board and trying to figure out just what the hell is the most important thing, or what your way is to push in and affect them most. If I attack with Euronwood Spies here, for instance, it has 2 power on Intrigue. They can defend with either of their 3s. They'll win the challenge and won't be able to make the claim. Won't be able to. We don't pay claim. You only pay claim on attack. But now they only have 3 other characters up, and perhaps if we win military with, say, Sir Waymar, and they kill the ghost, now they no longer can win the Intrigue challenge. So you have to evaluate: is my hand more important? Is my board more important? Is power more important? Where am I going to get my edge? And especially here, on this board, for us, we have 12 power in military. It's very unlikely that they're going to win a fight on military, but they could with Aereo if they get us to use our defenses in the wrong way. So that back and forth, that tension, is the entirety of the game, and it's my favorite bit about how it all plays. You're looking to, and there's a lot of wrinkles. For instance, looking at our characters in play, Sir Waymar Royce has a keyword, deadly. This means that if Sir Waymar Royce gets into a fight, an area defense, let's say, before claim happens, deadly happens. And even if I were to lose this, let's actually put Prince's Loyalist on there too. I lose this super hard. They win by 8, 8-4. Deadly still says you have to kill a participating character. You just have to do it. That's how strong Sir Waymar Royce is in a fight. They'll always get a kill. The way you can defend deadly doesn't work against characters with deadly. If you attack with one deadly character, they block with a deadly character. They're both too deadly to kill each other. That happens before claim as well. So, like, say I attack again with Sir Waymar, they block with Area Hota, realize their mistake, they can... Or, sorry, that happens after claim. I said before, but it's after. They can choose to kill Aereo for claim, and then there's nobody left in the fight for deadly to kill. Another keyword that's common in this game, stealth. Stealth means, on attack, choose a defender. Without stealth, that defender cannot block. So, stealth works against stealth, but it also is a wrinkle. So say, you look at this board, if I attack with the Princess Loyalist on Intrigue and Stealth Alaria Sand, now they can only block with the Scholar and the Ghost. 3 for 1 versus 4. So I would still win. Multi-blocks cards stop being individuals. It's 8 value instead of 2-4 value. Yeah, like, when you evaluate victory in a fight, you're evaluating the entire total of all power in the fight. So if I go military, like, the way I would announce the attack, if I'm playing this, I would go military for 12. That's the announcement I would make if I were playing this game. 2, 2, 4, 4. And then, they would be like, all right, cool. No, no defenders. I'll kill Ghost of High Heart. I'll trigger Area Hota. They can't just... These are a band, effectively. This is one combat band. Like, you block an attack as a group. You're going into a giant fight. Let's do the Intrigue fight, because that'll be an interesting one to show, right? So, like, right here. We attack for 6, right? And let's just say I don't stealth anybody. You can only declare one type of attack per round, correct. Unless I have an effect that says otherwise, once I make an Intrigue challenge, I cannot then again make an Intrigue challenge. So if I attack for 6, they can go, all right, I block for 7, I'll win the fight, and I do not have to discard. That's all you get for winning, is you don't have to discard, or you don't have to kill. Winning on defense merely lets you, not pay the claim. You don't get to do the thing. Again, unless a card says otherwise. Area Hota, for instance. After you lose a challenge by 4 or more, kneel Area Hota to choose and kill a character. So this can very much, Aereo just existing makes it a lot more dangerous. Attackers do not die on failing? No, absolutely not. If your attackers fail, they're tapped. They're knelt. That's all that happens. The only time characters will die in combat is on a military or with deadly or card effects. Area Hota here could kill. So to go through, let's go through a full example turn of challenges. All right. So let's start. We're going to have Sir Waymar Royce come in for military for 4. This is not the best way to do it. I just want to show off a bunch of different ways this can go down. So Sir Waymar Royce comes in military for 4. The opponent decides, you know what, I have Area Hota's effect up. I'll lose this fully. No blocks. We're on Conventions of War. So, hi. Conventions of War says you can only make 2 challenges a turn. You can't make your 3rd. That's why it's so much money. Actually, neither player. So, military challenge happens. You win. You get your claim. So you get your unopposed bonus. If nobody blocked, you just get unopposed, which is a power. So we go to 1 power on our house card. We need 15 to win. Our opponent is going to go ahead and kill a character for claim. They'll go ahead and kill the Ghost of Highheart, who goes to the dead pile, by the way, not the discard. Characters, if they are killed, which is die in military, die by a card effect that says kill, go to the dead pile. This is different than the discard pile. What's the difference? You'll notice Area Hota here has a flag on their name. Same with Olaria Sand, Sir Waymar Royce, and the Iron Throne. These cards are unique. They are named things. You cannot control more than one of a named thing like that. However, if a named thing like that ends up dead in your dead pile, well, Area Hota's dead. He can't come back. So you cannot play a second copy of Area Hota if Area Hota is already dead. You can play a second copy of Area as a duplicate, a body double, on Area Hota for free from your hand, if you have a unique copy of it. In which case, if Area Hota would be killed or discarded, you could just discard the duplicate instead. Not kill, just discard. It lets you do something with your unique copies of cards. Anyway, so we did our military challenge. We're then going to go ahead and our opponent is going to use Area Hota to kill Prince's Loyalist. Cool. Neat. That happened. Prince's Loyalist over here. Yes, literal body double. From there, we'll have Euronwood Spies attack on Intrigue for 2. Our opponent will let that go unopposed. We get another unopposed power, and we get to discard a card from their hand at random. Afterwards, Conventions of War says we've done 2 challenges, you're good. So then challenges goes to our opponent. Our opponent is going to go ahead and go Intrigue for 3. We have no defenders for that. They'll go ahead and claim, and they're going to discard a card at random. Then they're going to do Power for 3. We can defend. This card has text, please ignore it. They don't get unopposed, but because they won a power challenge, they get to steal a power from us. So you can see, even though our board kind of was the stronger looking one, based on different things you might care about. Do you care about ripping cards out of your opponent's hand? Do you care about defending your own hand? Maybe we don't care as much because we have this Alchemist here. Maybe we can let the Alchemist just die for claim once it's done its job. There's a lot of different directions as to how combat can play out. So, the challenges phase is then ended, and you move to dominance. Dominance is the entropy of the game. At the beginning of the dominance phase, whoever has the most power or most strength, 2, 4, standing, so not Nelt, claims 1 power. They take dominance. Right here, it's 0-0. Nobody gets anything. But usually, that's the way that, like, in a long grind, power is generated, you know? Generally, a game of Game of Thrones, if you're at a tournament, you play a single game, and that single game would take about an hour-ish. Could be a little more, could be less. 45, maybe, if you're, going fast enough about it. But yeah, and then from there, you go to the standing phase. Everything stands. And then we restart the whole bit. We go to plots again. We decide, all right, we're going to go ahead and reveal our plot. This time it's going to be Winter Storm. Our opponent reveals on Raven's Wings to go search a character from their deck. We have initiative for playing ours, 6 plus the 4, so we get to choose what we want to go first. We will, and then from there on, the game continues. The game continues until any player hits 15 power either on their house card or on their house card and cards they control combined. You might wonder, well, what do you mean cards you control? Well, let's talk about another keyword that you see on almost everything, renown. We'll go over the other keyword on this much later. Renown is when this character wins a combat, it claims a power. So, spamming a bunch of renown characters can be a very fast way to get to that 15. So, Viper looks like they've been ambushed. This Viper's a rad one. All of the red Vipers are like really good cards. That's like a running theme between red Vipers. They're all like super hell dudes. So, the picture I used for the stream on Twitter today was a red Viper. God, none of those are readable. But yeah, so that kind of covers the basic gameplay of the game. I love the way the back and forth on it works. Like, how you are playing towards, like, for one, you start, like, in the middle of the game. You start with, like, you know, you might start with 5 cards in play, and there's already, like, a narrative going, you know, like, oh my goodness, all right, we got, you know, this, and this. We get to start with, you know, these characters in this economy, and, you know, this here too. So, like, oh, great, you know, we get to start with our, you know, there's already a narrative, there's already a building going on, rather than starting from a blank slate. That's one of the biggest things I love about this game, is that it starts like that. And then also, like, the way that the challenge system plays out means that your choices in combat are really, really tight and really, like let's talk about, like, just a couple of the other cards I have here, for instance. If I have, Locked in the Tower is a good one. Locked in the Tower here. Kneel 3 influence. Influence is the little scroll on cards. So that's like a secondary resource for effects. Or a ring noble character to return a character to its owner's hand. You might think, if you're playing Magic the Gathering, I'm sorry, you want how much for unsummon? Like, that's unsummon, right? 1 blue. That's how much that effect costs. It's a blue. Costs 1 blue. Why does it cost, like half your lands in the back? Oh boy, Ty. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the host, Ty. We are doing an extremely different card game today. I might have to give another quick overview as we're going through here. This is the Game of Thrones CCG. Well, this isn't repeatable. This is just an event. This is a one-shot. You play it from your hand and discards. Great, cool. But in this game, unsummon's one of the most powerful things you can do for a lot of reasons. For instance, let's say I attack with our cool House Dane Courier. You know, they have 1 power or 1 strength. They're garbage. They're the worst. They're nothing. Cool. I will defend with my Nomadic Scholar for 3 on Intrigue. Intrigue being the green one. Alright. Post blockers. I'll pay the cost of Locked in the Tower. Bounce your blocker. Cool. You don't have any blockers? This goes unopposed. I'll claim my power. You discard a card at random from your hand. Oh, look. You discarded your dude. You know, they're like, effectively everything already has trample. So, yeah. Hello, everybody from Ty's stream. We got, so I'm talking about a ages-old card game that died back in the year 2007, was revived in the year 2007, died in the year 2012, was brought back in 2013, and is currently on like life support. But this is the Game of Thrones trading card game. Uh, you might think, ah, yes, Game of Thrones, the TV show. Yes, this game came out in 2002, and thus predates the TV show by about not quite a decade. It actually predates the fourth book by a year. A Feast for Crows did not come out until 2003. So, but yeah, right now we're kind of talking about the anatomy of the game, how it's played, and then I kind of wanted to get into a little bit more about the history of the game and what it's gone through as we all gain an understanding of what the game looks like. So, a lot of this is going to be just me sort of showing you cards, talking about cards, letting you learn about new things. So, there's a whole lot of whole different world of card games out there outside of just, you know, our newer digital ones or the big three. Even like not even looking at like ones that lasted a couple of years and died. This one's a game that effectively was around for 17 years. So, but yeah. So yeah, that is the quick of it though. You play your plot. Each player plays a plot. It gives them your gold value, gold in the upper left. You use that gold to play cards from your hand for your turn. You know, and you count you count up your gold in play, your gold in there. Then you spend that to be like, okay, I'd like to play this, 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 this. Cool. And then when you go to combat, you get to attack either on military, red, intrigue, green, or power, blue. And each different attack type can only be blocked by characters with the same icon, and what you win is different. You either get to kill something of your opponent's choice, discard at random, or steal their power, your win condition. So, it makes it a like there's a lot of choice involved. And that's why like Game of Thrones might be my favorite card game. Netrunner is the only other one I think that comes close because it has a lot of the same bits. There's a lot of choice involved. A lot of like, oh, what does this all mean? But yeah. Let me quick. One thing I want to do. We're gonna grab these 5 over here because I want to. We talked about Martell, but we haven't talked about each of these factions at all. And I kind of want to give an overview of the 6. In the original CCG, the game started with 3 factions. 3. The 4th faction was introduced in the 2nd set. The 5th faction was introduced in the next, like 2 or 3 sets later. And then the final faction was introduced, 7 sets in. It's kind of weird. Imagine if, Magic started with, white, black, and red. And then white, let's say black, green, and blue. And then red existed in, 2 years later. And then white existed 3 years later. And then purple existed a year later. So. So we're going to make these all big, and we're going to talk about each of these. Again, any questions you have as I'm going over things, super here to answer them. Super here to just go, because that's the entirety of what I want to do today, is talk about this card game and show it to you in cool ways. Because each of these different houses plays very differently. They each have their own little bits about them. We're gonna go ahead and grab some specific cards for them as well. So let's make this pile big. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about the 6 houses. If you're playing the LCG 2.0, there's actually 8 houses. There is a House Tyrell and a Night's Watch house. Um, which, boy howdy, that even brings things even more out there for. Wow, that card looks really bad. Wow, that's the only image I could find was this cut. Oh my god, no. Okay. Um. So Darkstar here is going to be the card I talk about when we talk about House Martell. House Martell is playing for the long game within the narrative of the books and show. House Martell is a family and kingdom down in the south in the desert. They are patient. They are waiting. They were wronged 15 years ago in the war to take over the throne from the Targaryens, and they want vengeance, but they're not going to, rush out and grab it. They're going to play the long game to get it. The way this translates in the within the game itself is that is let me pull up a couple different cards that kind of show the main mechanics that House Martell has. These are probably enough. As we saw with Locked in the Tower, House Martell is the holder of Bounce as a combat trick. This is incredibly powerful, as you can bounce a blocker to make a fight winnable in a way much like a trample combat trick would in Magic. House Martell's special keyword. Every house has a special keyword in CCG. It was introduced in the final set, but they all tell you about the house. Vengeful is whenever you lose a challenge as the defender, stand this character or this card. So both the Red Viper here and Darkstar have Vengeful. So say your opponent attacks for a pretty large amount, you can still defend for 6, like to prevent the unopposed, and then stand them once you lose. You might have effects that go off on losing. For instance, Alaria Sand can steal a power from any character, including your opponents. So if they are using renowned characters, slowly but surely as you lose their power, you go ahead and just yoink it off and onto there. Ariahota can kill a character when you lose by 4. So the other combat trick that Martell has is they can remove character icons. Orphan of Greenblood here can just remove all 3 icons. That's a couple tricks. The Broken Arm does that as well. They win by losing, and they're very good at it. So the idea is that they're patient. They wait for their opening, and when they have it, they strike with a ferocity unseen. They don't really have any weaknesses as far as like all 3 of the challenge types. Certain houses might be a little worse at one than the other. For instance, Baratheon is very good at power. Lannister is very good at intrigue. Stark is very good at military. And we'll kind of see that. Anyway, so yeah, they have a weird match in the mirror. Yes, they do, because like winning is losing and winning is also winning. So you have to know what fight you're trying to win and what fight you're trying to lose. A lot of that is like knowledge of what your opponent wants and what the important fights are. If you can identify them first, you'll win. So that is oh, okay, I can't. That's Martell. Winning is losing, combat tricks, and like just a patience. They're my favorite house. I've played Martell for years. I will continue to play Martell for years. Targaryens. So Martells are, as I said, Martells were wrong 15 years ago, waiting for their chance to strike from an overthrow of the Targaryen king 15 years ago. The uh, Viserys and Daenerys are the two last living Targaryens. Though Viserys ain't living for long. Daenerys ends up being our point of view character here and is the one who wants to reclaim her family's throne. She also, by the end of the first book, has found dragons. They've literally hatched out of a funeral pyre for her husband. The way this plays out, we have burn effects. You can see here on Flame Kissed. Attached character gets -2 strength and is killed if it hits 0. This is a fairly common thing to see throughout Targaryen cards. They also tend to have... Let's see if I can find some more in... Yeah, they're the ones with, like, literal real spot removal. So, like, Forever Burning here. Choose a character, it gets -1 strength, kneel 1 influence during dominance to pick it back up. And so you can replay. This doesn't give it the kill. Like, so you can't kill a character with this when it hits 0. But with Flame Kissed, you can. So, like, yeah, you get a lot in that way. Do I have their literal dragons? What does Deathbound mean? Deathbound means it goes to your dead pile rather than your discard pile. As I said, characters when they are killed in play are killed and go to your dead pile. Forever Burning here has the text Deathbound so that if it is discarded by a card effect, like if it would go to your discard pile, like it doesn't. It needs to be in your dead pile to be recurred. So. Do I have... I swear I have one of the dragons here, right? I wouldn't have not... Maybe I did. Well, that's on me. The Targaryens... There we go. There's Drogon. The Targaryens also have, their big dragons, as they age over the series and become much bigger threats. They also have the Dothraki Horde, who follow Daenerys after the events of the first book. They're a incredibly powerful military might. Probably the other set of cards. And they also have a very heavy attachment theme in their cards. Don't mind me flicking through cards here. Flick, 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 flick. Yeah, so here, Flame Kissed is an attachment, and they have a number of attachments like this or weapons. You can also see here the keyword that is the Targaryen keyword, ambush. Ambush means that during any phase, you can pay that much influence, so the scroll, rather than the gold cost, to play it at instant speed. So this -2 is also a combat trick. You can use it to weaken an attacker and win. You can use it to kill a blocker. You can use it in combination with maybe, Queen Dany's effect here. Characters that do not match their house affiliation get -2 strength. That's a loyalty effect. So yeah. I'm gonna keep Viserys off to the side, but that's a lot of what Targaryens have as their bit. Greyjoy. Let's talk about Greyjoy next. What is dead may never die. Greyjoy is all about raiding. They're all about warships. They have a lot of location destruction or hate in some way. They're the ones who actually can touch locations, attack at your opponent's economy on top of whatever normal attacks you might be making. Trying to find a specific card of theirs. I didn't have a good way to sort through these when I made these piles. So there we are, Longship. So one of the things that they have is in their faction they have a lot of cards that will have save effects. These are cards that can be played as an interrupt to save a character from being killed, kind of like the duplicate that I was talking about, where if Area Hota has an Area Hota on him, you can use secondary Area Hota to save the first. They have a lot of inbuilt that. That's thematic based off Aaron Dampmere and the Drowned as a group. What is dead may never die. When I just rises again, stronger. They also have Mill as a bit of a theme, both self and otherwise. Asha here. If you're familiar with the show, this is Yara. But Asha here can mill a card to gain an icon, which is great. Especially can work against this, I'll lose all your icons. Cool, I don't care. They also have the Intimidate keyword. The Intimidate keyword might be the weakest of all keywords. When you win a challenge with Intimidate, you can kneel an opposing character with strength. I think it's less than the difference you won by. So, if you attack for 3 and they block for 3, you can intimidate nothing. If they choose not to block, you can intimidate and tap a 3 or lower. I think it's lower. Intimidate comes up very rarely. In 2.0, it got replaced by a different keyword entirely because Intimidate was not really too much to work with. For a while, I thought it was. I thought I remembered it as characters with lower strength than it didn't count. But actually, that might be what it is. And then Intimidate is the kneel in 2.0? Shit, that might be it. I'm confusing 2.0 and 1.0. Yeah. Let me double check that. Sorry, Intimidate is one of those things that... Then why is it... Intimidate. Game of Thrones CCG. If I'm wrong, I've already been called wrong at least twice in the comments on this, and that's fine. Yeah, that's 2nd edition. Okay. So yeah, 1st edition, Intimidate is way cooler. It's the way more useful one, in that Intimidate is characters with a lower strength than this don't count their strength. Pretty sure that's Intimidate 1.0. Because the Balon with it was always what they had. So, anyway. They also, again, have a location hate. High tide. Just, this is blank a location. Who's next? Baratheon? House Baratheon. So within the war within the story, the Greyjoys were a rebellious house that were knocked out of rebellion about 20 years ago, and then in the current times have decided to make a vie for the throne in all of the nonsense that's happening throughout in the death of Robert Baratheon and everyone else trying to claim the throne. House Baratheon is head by Robert Baratheon, the king at the time of the first book. He had rose in rebellion with Eddard Stark against the Mad King 15 years ago to depose him, and had taken over. Baratheon have all of the power challenge bits because they're the house in power. They're the current rulers of the realm. So they have a lot of effects that key off of power challenges. Like freaking Robert's wine cellar here. Which, when you win a power challenge, kneel 3 influence, discard Robert's wine cellar from play to take control of a character controlled by the losing player, which generally results in the game ending, but that's okay. Um, House Baratheon has the most renown of any house. Uh, there's there. I think I want... Which pile is it that I want? I don't remember where I put everything now. Not you. So many piles. There's a third pile I thought I put somewhere. Oh well. Sorting things are chumps. Whatever, I can just remake it. Object. Yeah, well, now we'll remake it later. But yeah, so they have the most renown out of any house. A lot of their characters, Sir Robert, Sir Stannis, and Sir Renly, the three brothers, generally all have renown. Robert, the most commonly played Robert, Fat Bob, claims 2 power on renown. And their keyword, vigilant, is the opposite of the keyword for the Martells. Vigilant as a keyword is when you win as an attacker, untap. So they want to press the advantage. They want to be all outing. They want to be doing some rude shit. Brian here, whenever you win a challenge, which Brian was alone as the attacker defender, claim 2 power. So, like, you can Voltron onto Brian here, perhaps find a way to give her extra icons, extra power, and then claim 2 power every time she wins, and then have her untap and claim 2 power, untap, claim 2 power, untap, claim 2 power, and try to win in a turn. They also have a number of tricks on power challenges, and just, like, reasonably powerful stuff. Like a lot of stuff that can key off of power challenges. I want to find that last pile, because that last pile... Oh, there it is. It's this tiny pile. Interested in my man Davos is doing here? So this is Davos after the end of book 2. Pretty sure this is Davos at the end of book 2. After Stannis' fleet has been defeated in the Blackwater Bay, he near death, but was one of the few people that survived. A lot of Davos' cards will have a can't be killed or if killed, return to hand. Also, this card's strong as shit. While Sir Davos is attacking alone, raise claim by 2. So, yeah. As noted, claim is usually like 1 or 2 maybe. So this can make it 3 or 4, and your opponent has to kill 4, discard their entire hand, or kill 3 characters, which can be backed up by Tarthier. Choose a character, that character is +1 strength for each Baratheon character. So. But yeah. House Baratheon. House Lannister. So within the fiction, the Lannisters are the richest house and have a very ruthless reputation thanks to their patriarch Tywin. They have gold mines, which basically are the money for the entire economy of the 7 kingdoms, and are currently Cersei Lannister is married to Robert Baratheon and has 3 kids with Robert Baratheon. They're involved very deeply in the power struggles of the plot, from Jaime and his crises of faith about which oaths are worth keeping, to Tyrion and his quest to not be his dad, but also be his dad in a lot of ways. Uh, but anyway, the way this translates in the game itself, uh, they have money, they have power, and they are the best at intrigue, behind the scenes manipulation. Um, so Joffrey, for instance, uh, Joffrey is one of the has a king trait, as he is Robert's oldest son. Robert dies midway through the first book in a hunting accident, which is what leads to the War of the Five Kings, where a lot of people are vying for the throne. Uh, but yeah, uh, but yeah, they have intrigue as their strongest suit by a mile. You can see here, Cersei has the trait raise or lower the claim on intrigue gambit plots, which if you're the one playing the intrigue gambit plots, you can just raise your claim by one, and get two discards. So or two of anything. Or use it against your opponent. Um, their keyword is one of my favorite keywords. Infamy. Where's the? There it is. Castamere. So infamy is a keyword that says whenever you would claim power for your house, winning an unopposed challenge, whatever, instead of putting it on your house card, you can put it on a card with infamy. Now, here's a plus side. If you don't have power on your house, your opponent, when they win a power challenge, and try to come and steal it, sorry, it's all over here. Can't do it. Can't be taken. Downside. If your opponent plays removal for your card, well, you don't have any power anymore. So, double-edged sword, high risk, high reward. Castamere, for instance, is very easy to get you a ton of money for almost no cost until. Or Widow's Wail. Now, Widow's Wail is whenever you win with a challenge with an attached character, draw a card for each power on it. As I mentioned earlier, there's a draw cap. You can only draw 3 cards a turn. Oh, I didn't mention that when I went over here on the Martell. So, Lannister tends to be the best at drawing cards, though everybody can do it. Like, Lannister historically has been the best, at least in the CCG. House Martell is the best at resolving impulse. You might wonder what the heck's the difference. Well, like, if you have a card that just says, look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put one in your hand, that doesn't count towards your draw cap, like, at all. So, they are the best at drawing, more cards than you would expect. There'll be a couple cards we'll find later. But yeah, the other thing that Lannisters have as their main mechanic is kneeling. You can see here, Joffrey can just choose and kneel any character with the noble symbol. And there's a lot of different kneel effects within Lannister. That's their control tool. They can choose and kneel characters. They have like an icy manipulator location, etc. Have a good one. That's yeah. Sir Jaime. This Sir Jaime is the probably the most like flavorful Sir Jaime. Uh, within the fiction of the game, there was an uprising against House Targaryen. Uh, when Robert and Eddard were finally looking to be winning, the Mad King decided, all right, we're just gonna go up and we're gonna go out in a blaze of glory. And at that moment, Jaime, the leader of the Kingsguard, stabbed him in the back and killed him, ending the conflict. So he's known as the Kingslayer for being a member of the Kingsguard who killed the king. Uh, you can see his little quote down there. No matter what you do, you're forsaking one vow or the other. You know, it's kind of his arc. One of the things I found really interesting about the card game, by the way, I played the card game for years before reading the books. And, like, it really changed how I saw a lot of characters. Like, I played the card... I picked up the card game in 2004, just heading over to the card shop, and the owner just being like, hey, you want to play this? It was a slow day. I was like, oh, I don't know how to play this. Sure, I'll learn. And, oh, this is fun as hell. Yeah, I'm in. And so I didn't know anything about Game of Thrones as a series until, like, years after, which makes it very funny because there's a number of cards that, like, very obviously show major plot points. Yeah, this one, for instance, talking about, like, killing the old king, but, like, or the card's name is wrong. But there's a number of them as we go, so makes things pretty interesting in that regard. Anyway, we have one more house to talk about. That's House Stark. House Stark is the most powerful military house. Other than House Targaryen, they're the ones who can actually kill characters directly in a lot of different ways. Arya Stark here, for instance, when Arya leaves play, kneel to influence to kill a character with 3 strength or lower. There's a number of different kill effects that they have access to that other houses may not. They have very strong military might. And they have the worst keyword in the game. Just the worst. I'm showing you the Arya Stark, because Arya Stark is the only card with this keyword other than the most broken card in the game to be playable. And that keyword is Stalwart. Stalwart means when this card would be killed, put it on top of your deck. Those familiar with Magic the Gathering might immediately notice what happens when you have multiple characters with Stalwart in play, and then they die, and then you draw them. And then you're still in the losing position you were in when you played the cards with Stalwart. And that hasn't changed because you didn't draw new cards. So, yeah. With 2 exceptions, basically every card with Stalwart is hot garbage, and their keyword is very bad. Arya Stark is playable because Arya Stark's response here is after Arya leaves play, and then Arya does a kill, which means you get to replay Arya next turn after you draw Arya, and it gives you forward progress on your board. You might possibly break the stalemate or the board that you're in. But usually, Stalwart just means you're drawing a card you don't want to draw because if it was dead, you didn't want to draw it. So, with that shown, I can talk about the most busted card in the game. This card was printed right at the end of the CCG era. It was in the first set of chapter packs, and thus was still legal in the CCG era until it was banned in every format. And that is Jaqen H'ghar. Jaqen H'ghar is every affiliation. Jaqen H'ghar has every has 3 strength and all icons. Jaqen H'ghar has every keyword. The main things about Jaqen H'ghar that make Jaqen H'ghar dumb. If you remember, Vigilant is when you attack and win, untap Jaqen H'ghar. Vengeful is when you defend and lose, untap Jacques and Hagar. And Intimidate is all characters with less strength than Jacques and Hagar do not count their strength. And Infamy gives you strength. Whoa. So, this is the only card where Stalwart is very good on, because there aren't many cards as strong as Jacques and Hagar, so redrawing Jacques if Jacques is killed somehow, probably because of that ally trait. Ally as a trait is generally a drawback, and cards can just slap you for it. Yeah. Jacques here is a character who appears in the second novel, as well as having a very minor question mark appearance in the later books, but not a visible one. In the shows, that's different. But Jacques is a faceless man, and an assassin who can take on anyone's face, and ends up indebted to another character for a while. Really comes in as character after the Sports Festival arc. Also true. But yeah, Jacques and Hagar is one of 2 cards that were ever banned in the game. And for good reason. Whenever Jacques did play, it was just this is the only card that matters forever. It was very dumb. Anyway, a couple other things I want to show off while we're in here. 5 Kings editions also introduced these agendas that are house specific. Agendas are a condition you can have on your deck at the start in order for a benefit. These are I'm trying to think of a comparable, I know the more recent Arkham games use this as well as a system, because this game and the original Call of Cthulhu share a lot of blood. But these are a lot of fun as well. They all have the same text. You may not run neutral characters or locations in your deck, and then you get a benefit. Kings in the North, for instance. Before you draw your setup, you can remove 15 cards from the game to bring you down to 60. So you get to pre-sideboard if you're playing Kings in the North. Kings of Deceit lets you have 8 plot cards. After you play your 7th, your 8th plot is immediately counted as used. So you don't ever have to play it. It gives you an extra plot that you get to hide in there and you're not forced to play. One thing to note about plots, with the 7, you're going to cycle through all 7 after 7 turns. So, this one, Winter Storm, that brings each player down to 3 characters, this will happen. 100%. At some point, you will play this. And if you're in the lead and you're forced to play it on turn 7, well, that's bad. Brothers at War. This represents the... Kings in the North represents Robb Stark taking up the King in the North title after the events of the first book. Brothers at War is Stannis and Renly, the 2 brothers of Robert, who are also vying for the throne after Robert's death. You get to play with 2 30-card decks. And they're each Highlander decks. This is one of my favorite agendas ever. Whenever an effect chooses a deck, you choose between the 2. The idea would be you can have a deck that almost automatically gets 7 cards on setup, right? And then you have to draw from that deck when you draw your Re7. But then your other deck can just be all bombs. Just all biggies, all huge effects. Kings of Salt and Rock, you get to play a 45-card deck. This one's straightforward, strong. The True Queen. Out-of-house gold penalty is reduced by 1. Oh, I didn't talk about that during deck building. So, During deck building, you choose your house, and then you choose your agenda. There is an agenda that just says choose a second house. You can play cards from that house, and you need 20 power instead of 15 to win. But if you're just playing, like, Lannister, for instance, you can pay 2 gold extra on any card from any other faction to play that card. So, like, if, for instance, you think it's really worth it to play Castamere in your Targaryen deck to get the money going, you can pay 2 for it and play it. Or with this, you can pay 1 for it because the out-of-house gold penalty is reduced by 1. So that's the way it balances your card choices. You're always able to play any card from any faction. They're just 2 points more expensive, and also your reducers aren't going to work on them. So, Princes of the South, you can play an additional copy of any one plot card. That means if you wanted to play multiple copies of Winter Storm, you could. If you wanted multiple copies of Outfox, you get 1 duplicate. But within the 2.0, I believe that's a built-in rule. You can just do that in 2.0. And it used to be a rule in CCG very early. You play 2 of plot cards. Trying to think of anything else I wanted to point out while I'm in here in Five Kings. Five Kings Edition had, like, some growing issues with power cards at rarity. At rare, there was a cycle, the Riverlands, the Reach, and the Veil. Each of these were at rare, and each of these are way too powerful as far as how much money they give for cost. Generally, if a location is handing off money and influence equal to its cost, like, it needs some sort of drawback, but it actually has positive text. It's kind of funky. They were chase cards. Jaqen was released in a chapter pack, so you automatically got 3 of it when you bought it. The rumor was that Jaqen Hagar and one other card, Rhaegar, were going to be, like, mythic rare within the upcoming set before they changed to the CCG from CCG. But yeah, that's a lot of the game that I wanted to kind of talk about as far as how the game works, what we've got as far as houses, cards. The rest of what I had was just kind of looking at different sets, talking about how they played within Standard. There were a number of eras that I played through and a couple that I did not. But one of the things I find most interesting is that there's basically no way to find this information anymore online. Like, every resource for the Game of Thrones card game is the LCG 2.0. Every site that I could find, with one exception about the CCG, was gone. So somebody's got to still remember that we once lived, you know? What's this pile? Oh, that's the... Where's other tiny pile? So I figure I'll do a little bit more talking about a lot of weird lost CCGs over the years. I've played a lot of them. The era between, like, early 2000s and mid 2000s, so like 3 to 8, I played a ton of CCGs. Like, that was what I did all the time. Let's go ahead and just kind of... Okay, well, let's... Oh, no. Hmm. That didn't work. Tried to flip the table, but it didn't work at all. What is happening? Alright, hold on. Let me... Yes, let's go main menu. Okay, let's just make a different table. A Kraken table. This one will be fine. No, don't want those. Those are completely illegal. Okay, showcase 1, I think, is the one I want. Give it the card back, and I can quick step in, flip through some cards, talk about what they meant for the game. That... Not... I want 70 on these, that's what I want. And then I think that'll probably be where I leave it for today. I will, at a later time, I plan on doing some more games of this. But this was very ad hoc. Like, I just did this, like, off the top of my head because I felt like it. I was really interested in doing some of this to show this off. I realized that this is a stream that has, like, a very high barrier to entry, but I think it's really cool, and I really am happy to share this with you. Yeah, anyway, quick go through some of these older cards. These are... Oh boy, those are not happy. These are some of the plots from the first expansion of the game. Westeros Edition. Kind of showing off the base power level. And King's Peace is not base power level. So like, when revealed, each player chooses and discards a character. Cannot be saved. When revealed, each player kills down to 3 characters. When revealed, search for a character that you do not have in play. Reveal to all characters and put it in your hand. So that's kind of like the base power level. There were a couple cards in... However, the first set of Game of Thrones, much like, you know, any first set of anything ever, had some problem cards that just weren't balanced at all. Like, weren't maybe not weren't balanced, but like clearly weren't balanced correctly. The King's Peace is a card I remember being an absolute pain in the ass. In order to initiate a challenge against you, an opponent must give your house 1 power. So they have to give you a power, which is now represented by a snake. But on turn 1, you have no power. And the way you get power is by winning challenges against your opponent. So if you play the King's Peace on turn 1, your opponent cannot initiate challenges against you. You have 0 claim, so you can't really win anything against them. You can claim Renown on your characters, you can claim Deadly on your characters, you can claim Unopposed on your characters, but you can't claim power. Again, in the early release of the TCG, you could play multiple copies of a plot in your plot deck. So turn 1 was cool. What about turn 2? Alright, no rush 15 min, let's go. It was a card that was not very balanced in that way. I remember Heads on Pikes was one that people also were like, what the heck, as far as how much mill it gave. But mill isn't a way you can win, so I never really thought of it as much. It's like mill 2 for each card in your opponent's dead pile. But the real cards that were like notable, Milk of the Poppy was not a busted one. That one was fine. Put to the Sword. Hi. When you win a military challenge, choose and kill a character. Just do it. Dead. Gone. Out. Gone. What house are you playing? Any house. Like, who cares? After you win a military challenge, choose and discard 2 locations controlled by the losing player. Do you have to win by that much? No. Do you have to win on offense? No. Just do it. When you win an intrigue challenge, choose and kill a character without an intrigue icon. Has really good text. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground. But yeah, so early cards had some balance issues. After that, we have the release of the second set, which has one of the more notable arts on a card. This is Stannis Baratheon. He's the brother of Robert Baratheon. As you might notice in his art, he is wielding a lightsaber. You know, like, yes, it's the sword Lightbringer is what it's supposed to be here. Wow, that's unreadable. Holy shit. Lightbringer is unique. It's Stannis only, and if it saves Stannis from being killed. But anyway, so this is Jedi Stannis. We also have the most notable plot in the entire game. One of my favorite balances. Valar Morghulis. All men must die. When revealed, kill all characters. You get shit for gold, you get no claim. But it's a wrath. Wraths are very, very hard to come by. Most formats that I played, Valar Morghulis was not a legal card. It was a very notable thing that Valar Morghulis was placed in the core set for the LCG because it completely shifted what the expectation was, whereas in the CCG it had rotated. We also have these neutral Kingsguard that were early in sets. These were a early tribe. Each of the Kingsguard would hand off Kingsguard effects. Jaime being the head of the Kingsguard. Oh, and here's I was talking about how the Greyjoys were all about saving characters. This is a 0 cost that is really powerful because you can play it on your openers. So, alright, then I think... No, not Balon. Oh, this is Balon that has effectively Intimidate. This is where Intimidate comes from as a mechanic. I don't care about Jorah. Littlefinger. Trying to think of the... Ah, here we are. Here's Fat Bob. Wow, that is almost unreadable. Whenever this Robert claims power for renown, he claims 2 power. This was a way to be able to rush down your opponent very quickly. Had a lot of reprints. Oh, I picked up the 2 Balons here because this is something I kind of wanted to show. In the game, you would have a number of times where you'd get the same character at like different points in their life or like slightly different text on them. Like this Balon draws you a card for each warship you control on not just death but leaving play. Where this is like a very offensive one. You get that a lot. One other thing you get is you can have a card with the same name in different factions. So this is actually like, I remember this coming up a lot where I think it was Kaz kind of talking about like cards with the same name but different text. Game of Thrones does this all the time. You'll have different variations on the Red Viper, or Balon Greyjoy, or Robert Baratheon, or Sir Gregor Clegane, some dead man. But like maybe in different, each of these has a similar effect. After you win dominance by 4 or more, do a thing. Kneel a character that character doesn't stand, move any number of power from a character to a Baratheon character, etc. that returns a House Targaryen event to your hand. But yeah, it's a really neat thing that you have to like choose like which like of a character you're going to play. For so for Ariane Martell here, when Ariane Martell attacks, your claim goes up by one. We also had an Ariane Martell in our previous deck that was whenever you play an event, stand Ariane Martell. And then there's there are a couple other different variations on this. So like you have to choose which is most beneficial to your deck, or maybe you do want both, and then if you draw the second copy, you know, I don't want the King's Piece. You play it as as a duplicate, because you can do that. You just play it on top of the other card, and now it's a duplicate. This is actually about 6 sets in right now. I'm not talking too specifically to each of the sets because this is pre my time playing. There was a neat little YouTube video that I will put in the description of this on the VOD that was about 3.5 minutes long. Like 2 hours long. That goes through a little bit more in depth on each of these early sets. So the solutionist cards only name themselves. In what way do you mean? Like so if you're doing deck building, like, and you're playing 3 Ariane Martell, you would have to note that like this is Ariane Martell from Iron Throne or Ariane Martell from Five Kings or whatnot, as far as on the little thing. But like the card is the same name, is the same. So, and here we go. Here's another Red Viper. Every Red Viper is stupid strong. This is a running theme of the Red Viper. Generally, the Red Viper will be 5 cost, Tricon 3 strength. That isn't always the case. The Red Viper in Five Kings was 4 cost. The Red Viper in Winter Edition is 4 cost, 4 strength. But like this Viper, for instance, Stealth Renown. When you win a challenge with the Red Viper, attach the top card of your deck face down to the Red Viper. Discard a face down card to stand the Red Viper. So if you're winning all your challenges, the Viper can be in all of them forever, even on defense. And you get Renown, which is power from the Viper winning a challenge. So like you can just buzzsaw your opponents. House Messenger, I did put it in here. House Messenger is a way to get around the draw cap. As I mentioned, you can only draw 3 cards in a turn outside of your draw phase. So this, reveal top 2, put 1 in your hand, other bottom, gets around that. Another cool thing that started with Game of Thrones and continued to Netrunner, which is where my card comes from, is World Champ cards. There's a number of World Champ cards throughout the history of Game of Thrones. And they're generally, like, they're all very unique. Bandit Lord here was the first neutral way to discard locations outside of Put to the Torch. It was like another come into play effect. Iron Victory. Oh god, right, Iron Victory, the one that you can just discard to kill an attacker or defender. King's Hall. This is one I wanted to put on the list for, like, Hyper Dark Ritual. Kneel and discard King's Hall from play cannot be saved to lower the cost of the next card you play by 3. There's 2 different types of economy in this game. There's the kind where you pay money to put cards in play that either, like, permanently give you resources, or there's this. These are very strong. Here we have different types of agendas. I showed you earlier the agendas that were faction only. These are agendas that any house can play. This one gives your Night Watch characters the ability to attack and defend during military and power, no matter what. But you need 5 additional power. This lets you play any Maester characters in your deck with no penalty, but you need 5 more power. And then the twins. You need 20 power to win. You can play with 4 ofs. 3 of is the normal in this game. 60 cards, 3 of. I don't know if I mentioned that. Or 5 of if they're a House Frey character. So, like, this lets your deck be, like, hyper consistent at the cost of needing to go longer to win. And then here's Treaty. You need 5 power to win. When you announce Treaty as your agenda, announce a house, you can play those at normal. Okay, so this is actually where I started playing, so I can talk more about Valerian Edition a little bit more. Valerian Edition is where they introduced influence as a mechanic. And when they introduced influence as a mechanic, this little goal, this little scroll, they went really heavy-handed on making sure you are forced to play influence in your deck. So, like, the Lion's Will here is just pay 1 influence, kneel a character. All right, cool. Paper Shield, cancel an event that does not have an influence cost. Again, like most cards, this is referencing specifically a moment. When Cersei and Joffrey and Littlefinger specifically betray Eddard at the end of the first book. But it's a cancel that lets you counter non-influence effects. Oh, well, you better, include influence in your deck, player. What happens if your opponent has Stannis Baratheon? Opponents can't declare defenders unless they kneel 1 influence. Uh-oh. So they're very heavy-handed about that. All right. Time to go over another Red Viper. So the first Red Viper we had was Stealth Renown and could untap after it won every challenge. This Red Viper has Renown, immune to events and character abilities, and does not kneel to attack an opponent who controls more characters than you. So, that first Red Viper was like a buzzsaw. This one's like the double buzzsaw, but it's hexproof. Again, this was also the Viper reprinted in the LCG, and was just an incredibly powerful card in that. I don't think... I'll get to it soon, but as this mentions, control more characters than you, multiplayer was a big part of this game. I think I've got the titles in one of these somewhere. Oh, Trading with Pentoshi. This was like the big money plot for a long time. You can't reduce costs of cards, but it gives you 8 freaking gold. After Valerian Edition, which introduced influence, they had, oh god, Knights. What was Knight's set called? I don't remember the name of Knight's set. Anyway, it had Joust and Melee as keywords, except Joust was way better, because when you had a character with attack alone, it would gain Joust, and a jousting attacker can only be blocked by 1 defender. Because attackers win ties, generally that just means you win. Like, and then after you win a joust, reveal top card. Are there cards that can steal gold from players? Yes. Those are more in LCG, because gold goes away at the end of the marshalling phase, but in CCG. But in LCG, you use it to pay for events as well, and that can be stolen by other effects. Melee. There's 4 more characters in the fight. Melee was a lot worse. But yeah, Storm's End Turning Grounds and Lannisborg Turning Grounds are both really, really powerful. Like, Storm's End Turning Grounds, if you had a character like Robert jousting, Robert would win 3 power on the attack, maybe stealing a 4th. Or, if you were using the Knight of Flowers here, the Knight of Flowers could kneel 2 influence to, like, discard a character from play if it was lower strength. Yeah. There's also a Knight agenda. They'll let you draw an additional card if you had more Knights, draw 1 less if you had less Knights. Risk reward on that. The last set in Valerian was all about loyalty and kings. Uh, yeah, a lot of cards that were like, okay, if you control no neutral or non-blank things, you get really powerful effects. And it also had the earliest versions of these, like, if it's the only king you have in play, raise your claim, kind of like what we saw with Circe earlier. Um, all right, here we are. We're getting into doomed cards. We talked about doomed cards before. In the bottom left here, there's a little raven on this. This is Winter Edition. Winter Edition focuses on winter being here. Uh, it could be the end of days, perhaps. There's something brewing in the north. Um, that the raven in the bottom left me is a doomed card. If you ever have 5 doomed cards in your grave or in your dead pile, you lose the game. So like, doomed cards were very powerful. Jamie, for instance, has a 4th point of strength and immunity to opponent characters' abilities. Melisandre here. Whenever a character claims power for renown, claim 1 power. Like, I talked about being able to rush with, like, renown, you know, something like Knight of Flowers, something like the Robert from earlier. Melisandre would let you do that way quicker than you ever could. It also is not character you control, it's just character. Or this Ariane Martel. This one is 3 cost, 3 strength, stealth, which is what we've seen. We've seen 3 or 4 cost. After a character with stealth is declared as an attacker, stand Ariane Martel. Ariane Martel is a character with stealth. So whenever Ariane Martel declares an attack as an attacker, stand Ariane Martel. And stealth means a character without stealth can't block. So you also get to stand it. Yeah, like, so again, characters with doomed icons were very powerful. Here's another Viper. I put all the Vipers in here because I want to talk about all the Vipers. This one was a combo Viper. 4 cost, 4 strength, all icons, renown. After a character is killed or discarded from play, kneel 1 influence to stand the Viper. The Viper has to be knelt to do this. Then claim 2 power on the Viper. So the idea is like you make a military challenge. You win the military challenge. You kneel an influence to stand the Viper and claim 2 power. You make another challenge. You use the effect of a character you control that says kill this character to do X. You pay an influence. You stand the Viper. You claim 2 more power. You win the challenge because of renown. You claim a 6th power. You attack for power challenge. You can claim something like 15 power in 1 turn and just win with that Viper. It's very funny. The other thing that was really big about Winter Edition was kind of known as the graying of the game. Winter Edition had a ton of very powerful neutral cards, kind of to the detriment of deck building. Because they're all neutral, every deck played them. And because they were played everywhere, things got very boring very quickly when, like, all right, I'm going to play, Wild Lake Messenger, by the way, which is a good way to get rid of a character in play. For, like, there's just a lot. We'll see some more here, but there were a lot of neutral characters that were just way too strong. Winter Edition is also in the Kingdom bit was revealed, was started to be used. Kingdom and others. Kingdom allowed for like stronger plots that either you needed few in your discard or very strong effects. Whereas the other, like Benjen's Cash here, when revealed, search for a card, put it in hand, anything. But there also were the other cards. We saw the others plot. Yeah. Come on. Here, whose name may not be spoken. Others, when revealed, name, attachment, or location. That doesn't really do anything. Well, what could the payoff be? Others, when revealed, if you have 2 or more others in your used pile, kill all characters, cannot be saved. Winter has come. I love Winter Has Come as a board wipe because you have to dedicate 3 plots in your deck to play it, and you have to, like, telegraph the shit out of it. Also, if you're playing at your plot deck and you don't burn it early, like really early, you're going to be forced to use it on 7. And if you use it on 7 and you're winning, that might not turn out well for you. So it's a really, really, like, it has a real deck building cost, and it's got a real, uh, 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 payoff for that deck building cost as well. All right. We don't have to go through the third pile, and this one we'll only have to go through a little bit to get where I want to go. Rule by decree. This is a plot that was one of the scariest plots in the game. I remember in both the CCG and LCG. So, cannot be canceled. The cannot be canceled is on here to make sure if it backfires, it has to backfire. When revealed, the player with the most cards in hand chooses and discards down to 4. Now, you want to know what the scariest action your opponent can do is on turn 1? Pre-plot, I have an action. I'm going to play an event to do some bullshit. Maybe I'll bounce a character you control. Alright, let's reveal plots. Whoop! Bonk, you have to discard down to 4 cards from your 7 or 8. And then, it's very powerful. It can also backfire. There's ways around it, but it was a very known thing. In the winter cycle, there were a cycle of cards that were my favorite events in the game. These were the commands. Every house had one of these. I kind of wish events, by the way, had a better way of differentiating what house they were. That gets better in later versions, but... So, these are all events that have the cost... kneel your house card, which is effectively just saying once per turn, to do a thing. So, like Prince Dorian's command, kneel a house card to get an attacker out of a fight. Kneel your house card to make an additional challenge of your choice. Like, these are super powerful effects. Robert, kneel your house card dominance, claim 2 power. Kneel your house card to put a location from your hand or discard into play. Circe's is actually really good. It also has that cat on it. Good cat. Kneel your house card to choose and kneel a character. Discard all power and attachments from it. This was a very neat cycle. And you might wonder, well, is that on any other card that I might want to pay the cost on that? I'm going to introduce you to Massing at Twilight, the most powerful card in, Thrones. Massing at Twilight. Kneel your house card to reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and put them in your hand. Y'all like Pot of Greed? I like Pot of Greed. You remember what I told you about how card draw is limited in this game? How you can only draw 3 cards before you hit the limit? Do you see a word on this card that's not there? This doesn't draw the cards. Well, it didn't draw the cards. It was fairly quickly errataed to say draw them, rather than just reveal the top 3 and because with Massing at Twilight, you could get through 10 cards in a turn, and it was very dumb. It has the Doomed icon, but if you just played 3 Massing at Twilight as your only 3 Doomed cards, that's fine. I'll include 3 Pot of Greed in my deck. It's easy enough. But yeah, this did get errataed along with a later card to say draw, but even with that, it was still one of the most powerful draw options in the game. Why did I included There Are No Men Like Me because I liked the art on this card. That's it. Joe, one of the owners of the card shop I used to go to years back, where I learned how to play this, has the art print for this hanging on the wall. The art being Jaime sitting on the Iron Throne after he's killed the Mad King. with his quote, "There are no men like me. There is only me." So there's a lot of like fun quotes and bits in this game that I really like. Samuel Tarley is another one of these neutral cards from Winter Edition that were super powerful, played in every deck. Neil Samwell, look at your top four, swap one of those cards with another card in your hand. So this gave you like a one-shot scroll rack that let you dig super deep to find another card. And it was a one-cost character. You can just claim it away once it was done. Um, Defenders of the North was the agenda that everyone played. Not everyone, but most people, because it was very dumb. You draw one fewer card during your draw phase, so you only draw one. After you draw cards during the draw phase, reveal the top X cards of your deck and put them in your hand. X is the number of doomed cards in your dead pile. So, like, if you got to, like, 2 or 3 doomed cards in your dead pile by, I don't know, playing Massing at Twilight, or, like, any of the other, like, characters we had seen earlier here, you know, maybe Melisandre died, or maybe, you know, something like that. You draw 4 cards a turn on your opponent who's drawing 2, very quickly overwhelming them. I knew I remembered to put Prince's Loyalist in here. So I talked about banned cards in the game of Game of Thrones. And in the CCG era, there were only 2 cards that ever got banned. The first was Jaqen H'ghar. The second was Prince's Loyalist in Legacy, as the format was at the time. So Prince's Loyalist, 3 strength, or 3 cost, 4 strength, military intrigue, stealth, immune to events. So cool, that's nice. Kneel 1 influence to cancel a triggered character ability with influence cost X or lower. X is the number of doom cards in your dead pile. That doesn't seem like too much, right? Like that. I mean, on the face, I don't think that reads like too much. Like you have to spend influence off of however you're getting it, in order to, you know, cancel character effects. When it says triggered character ability, that is text that has the bold and then a colon. Betamax, you've picked up on it. You figured it out. Can X be 0? Yes. So if you have 0 cards in your Doom pile, you can cancel any triggered ability in the game. Like now, obviously you can't cancel ones that cost 2 influence. But do you know how many cost 2 influence? It's none, 0, zip. Like most of the time, your character abilities aren't things that you're repeatedly doing for 0 influence. They're things you're doing for like 0, or, you know, like here, the Red Viper. Discard a card to stay on the Red Viper. Nah, I don't think so. Cancel a card effect that would discard area. Nah, no thanks. What else we got? Do we got more characters down here? After characters killed, stand. Nah, I don't think so. Kneel to influence. Nah, nope, don't like that. Like, just like this effectively just said all your opponent's characters have no text, and the fact that X equals 0, like, was what made this just busted. Like, it just wasn't like this isn't, especially on like the power level of 3 cost, 4 strength, stealth, immune to events. Like, yeah. More neutral cards that were seen in a lot of decks. Felcrow can't be killed. But it's doomed, which is very funny. Because this is a doomed card if it ever dies, which it can't. It's deathbound though, so if it's discarded from play, it goes to dead pile. Sir Waymar can't be killed, but it counts as a doom card if it's in play. And then we have From Winter's Touch returned. Put into play on non-army character that was killed this phase, then attached From Winter's Touch return to it as a condition. Counts as a condition attachment with the text. Attached character gains the white trait. Attached character cannot be killed. You are considered to have an additional Doom card in your dead pile. Like, this is just a revive. There's just a lot of these, like, very powerful, like, colorless cards. Oh, I wanted to show off Viper's Bannerman because this was my favorite army at the time. These were in the third of the winter set. This bypasses the draw problems again. When it comes to play or leaves play, top two, put them in your hand. Defenders of King's Landing also was very powerful because it knelt 2 characters, so you just kneel your opponent's board out. Festering Wound is the card the Targaryen was kind of built around. -3 strength, kills if it's 0. Like, no other card was that powerful. Then we hit Iron Throne. You can see there's a card change in Iron Throne. Iron Throne Edition was released around 2006. You can see there's a difference in, like, card format. A little hard to see on Rob here. Rob has the text, which I love, because Rob is, like, House Stark is supposed to be the best in military. Well, Rob Stark is participating in a military challenge. The opponent does not control a participating character named Rob Stark. You automatically win the challenge. Like, just you win. Rob can't lose. Rob can never lose, which is fitting because Rob in the books never loses a military engagement. That's also, like, Cersei here. When Cersei is attacking, other participating characters with an intrigue icon don't count their strength. What happens if I attack on an intrigue challenge? They don't count their strength. Can I defend? Yes. Will it do anything? No. Oh. Sir Jaime. This Sir Jaime is a hilarious joke of a card. This was colloquially known as Super Saiyan Jaime. Because he's like Sir Jaime is not this is not a good representation of Jaime dual wielding while screaming ah, like it's very hilarious as a card. Whereas, oh God, some of these just came out really hard to see. Lannisport Steward, very good representation of, like, Lannister. Just here's some money, make some cash. Robert, plus claim on power challenges. Melisandre from, oh God, right. This is the Melisandre that just says power on your opponent's characters doesn't count. Which, like, this Melisandre accounts for more victories than, like, any other card I can think of. Like, oh my God. Like, if your opponent's trying to win through Renown, you can just blank their entire board of, power, and then, like, then they have to kill Melisandre to win, and it becomes this really funky game from there. Euron, I put in here because Euron features the highest level of immunity. We had immunity to character effects. We had immunity to events. This is immunity to triggered effects. Anything that has the colon on it, like the response, is a triggered effect. So Euron here is just immune to everything. It's very funny. Also, everyone has to mill to attack, which isn't much, but I think there's also a Red Viper we'll be seeing in here. Wex Pike was much like the Influence. When they introduced the crests in the bottom right, they made a card to try to force you to play them. When Wex attacks, characters without crests cannot block. Crests are these little swords, ring swords, etc. Big dragons. They always have dragons in, like, every other set. These ones are huge ones that, like, this one, it's like once they're in play, everything dies to 0 strength, which is really powerful. And then I think we're gonna get Drogo. Drogo here defined the entirety of the, like, house. It's in Drogo's play style. After you win a challenge, call Drogo into play from your hand. You don't pay the cost. At the end of the phase, return Khal Drogo to its owner's hand. So, like, once you win any challenge, you get to play Drogo for free, have Drogo attack, and then bounce Drogo back in, out of your hand. So, like, we had that plot earlier that put everybody on 3 characters. Drogo would give you an edge there as a free 4th. A lot of the ambush mechanic kind of comes straight from Khal Drogo. Piet Pri, one of the most dangerous attackers in Iron Kings. When attacked alone, instead of claim, choose and kill a character. Which we'll see very quickly. Where's my Viper at? Where's my Viper at? There he is. Again, every Viper's dumb and powerful. Stealth, for now, when you win a challenge in which a Viper attacked alone instead of normal claim, choose and kill any character. With that stealth, you can bypass the strongest character they have. With all 3 icons, you can do it on whatever challenge you want, not just military. I think I'm basically out of cards at this point. I think we've seen most everything else here. Sir Ares. I talked about how ally is a drawback trait. So when Sir Ares comes to play, choose and discard an ally or mercenary. Ally, if you see it on a card, is a drawback to have. Generally, it means that the character is a lot easier to kill. Anyway. Red Wedding. Ah, yes. One of my other favorite plots. Opponent to the left chooses a lord or lady, kill one, claim 2 power on the other. But yeah, the last thing I wanted to touch on before we finish tonight, I know it's just been a lot of me talking about cards. I hope it's been interesting nonetheless, because again, I find this card game super fun. These 6 cards I want to talk about are the titles for multiplayer. We have the, here we go. So, get out of here. So these 6 cards, we have we'll start with these 3. Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. You have so these +3s mean if you have a character in a challenge, you get +3 strength. The Lord Commander can redirect an undefended a military challenge if you win from someone else. And then if you win it, you take power from the attacker. The Crown Regent can redirect 1 challenge total. And the Master Whisperers doesn't have anything. These are multiplayer titles. The way they work is that at the start of the round, after plots are revealed, you each, in turn order, pick a title. And you gain the benefits of the title along with the supports and oppositions. So, like, the Master of Coins supports the Master of Law, the person with cards, but opposes the Hand of the King, who is the influence. So if you win against whoever you oppose, I think you get a power. You can defend for the person you support. And these titles make multiplayer a lot more interesting. As I said, multiplayer is a supported format in the game. Melee is a real thing that you can go play. It's really rad. Bastard of Bolton, Willis Tyrell. These are these dual house cards from Iron Throne Edition. The Bastard of Bolton has the text, when a card would be discarded from your opponent's hand or deck, kill it instead. Which was, Ramsey has some power. And then Willis represents House Tyrell. If you have most House Tyrell characters, you need 1 fewer power to win the game. Yay. But yeah, anyway, I think that's about it. Oh, no, I didn't talk about the Irie. The Irie, okay. The Irie is one of the coolest cards that got introduced really late in the CCG era. It got remade as the Brotherhood Without Banners, if I remember right, in the LCG. You can start the game with the Irie and any number of duplicates in play before drawing your setup. You cannot place setup cards. So, you know how when you play setup, you can spend 5 gold to play any number of cards from your hand and then draw back up. What if you forego that and just get +3 gold every turn for the rest of the game? Is that worth it? And what it did is it made a lot of different deck building. Decks that needed influence for a lot of events could use it with the Irie. Decks that wanted a more consistent setup or didn't want to play a lot of low-cost cards just to make the Irie function or make your setups good could do that. But there's also the risk. The Irie is immune to triggered effects, which is the highest protection you can have. But that's not the ultimate protection. That isn't invincibility, merely invulnerability. So, uh, let's see. Let's look at the last three cards. Oh, personal guard. This was a thing I wanted to show off. The game had promos that you would get by sending in coins on the back of booster packs or prizes from events. The promos were like unique cards that were from sets but not in the set. So like personal guard here is a way to kneel characters on like a neutral card, but you had to get this as a promo. It's really weird. Dark Star here. Wow, that's unreadable, Dark Star. Whenever you lose a challenge, reveal the top card of your deck, then put it in your hand. I love this Dark Star. So like, yeah, the Irie is really strong. It's incredibly powerful. You know, like damn, like the Irie is a really neat and nifty way to like build like to deck build. But let me just components, cards, custom deck right there. Card showcase. Card showcase 1. Oh, they want a card back. So there's a card called Frozen Solid. Attached to an attachment or a location. Treat attached attachment or a location as though its text box were blank. This is not a triggered effect. That immunity does not grant immunity to this. The Irie is not all powerful, and if you waste your setup just to have your opponent frozen solid your Irie, like turn 1 or 2, oh boy, it has drawbacks. So, the last two cards to touch on, Ghost of High Heart, was a really cool effect because it's a Vendilion click. It was actually made before Vendilion click came out. Kneel Ghost of High Heart to look at the player's hand, choose and discard a card of your choice, then that player draws a card. This only works in challenge phase, so you can't do it to disrupt their plays early. But if they hit draw cap, they can't draw that card. So, you know, it could punish somebody who's overdrawing. And then the final card I want to show off, the Doom That Came. Attached character's controller is considered to have one additional doomed card character in his or her dead pile. Wait, in his, is, or her. Anyway. So, you know, I said you lose if you hit 5 Doom cards? There are multiple cards that hate on Doom cards in that way. There's the Great Pyramid, I believe, as well. Great Pyramid of Marine that just says your opponent is considered to have an additional Doom card. There are not enough to kill your opponent from 0. You can play 3 Doom That Came and 1 Great Pyramid to give them 4. Your opponent has to go over themselves. You can't do it for free. So, anyway. Alright, that's been enough talking about card games for a while. I hope you all had a fun time with this. I know this was a very strange stream compared to what I usually do, but my god, have I wanted to talk about Thrones for some time. At a later date, I think I'll do some gameplay, because, like, obviously just kind of talking about it is a type of stream that not everybody's going to enjoy, but my god, is this, like, a game I have a ton of fondness for. A couple other notes I want to tell you about the... Oh, hey, there's me. The Game of Thrones CCG. One of my favorite tournaments that would get ran for the event was Castle Stolic, which was a event that would happen yearly up through 2019. That effectively became the European Championship. A group would rent out a castle out in Germany? and like just run like a joust and a melee tournament out of there, and it became the de facto not world championship, like not the one at Gen Con or at FFG headquarters. And so it was just this huge event. I always thought it was like the coolest thing that was like where the world champs was. It wasn't the official world champs, it was basically. Anyway, but yeah, I hope you got to enjoy me talk about this. I want to thank Ty for the host, and do want to thank anyone who stuck around from that, because I realize y'all walked in right at the end of me just going on about a card game for eternity. But me talking about a card game for eternity basically is on brand for the channel. Let's be real. So anyway, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you all very much for joining. If you want to catch more, you can always follow, see when you're live. You can subscribe to Cool Skulls and Slimes. Tomorrow, we got more Slay the Spire. We got another Downfall character we're going to be checking out. Thursday, we're going to be going back to Lightning Returns, being Luke. And then Saturday, Aeronautical Business. We got Aerobiz going on over at Ty's. That's, I think, 3 Mountain. I think it's the start time of that. We should be finishing the business. Will Ty make it out from behind the Iron Curtain? Will Bruce be able to stop the Mets? Who can say? Find out on Saturday. Anyway, thank you all for joining. Have a good night, everybody.